Hello, this is the Geek Week News Update. We are your hosts. I am Jennifer, and this is Dakota.
Hello. So the Geek Week News Update, this is the first episode, and it's going to be all about bringing the latest and greatest from pop culture and geek news from around the week right to you. So a little about myself. My name is Dakota. I am the editor of the blog geekcritique.net, which you can find in the link below. And Jen, what do you do?
I am a contributor to Geek Critique,
Right.
And I'm really excited to be a part of this. So we're going to try to bring the news to you in 20-minute intervals.
Or less.
20-minute or less.
Yeah.
This one might run a little bit over because we have a lot to talk about and we're
Right.
very excited. But, we want this to be short and sweet.
Mm-hmm. So first up this week, we have Star Wars Rogue One. Entertainment Weekly's cover of Star Wars Rogue One. So let's talk a little bit about that. We see on the cover the TIE Strikers, which is a new type of TIE made directly for this film. It's kind of flatter, it's sleeker, and apparently a lot faster than your average TIE fighter, which, pretty cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Pretty sleek. And then we also have the AT-ACTs, not to be confused with the AT-ATs that we're used to. The big difference being the C. So those are all-terrain armored cargo transport.
Very good.
I messed that up quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the difference being the cargo, I think maybe perhaps prior to the larger parts of the war, these were just more of a cargo vessel as opposed to the war tanks that we're accustomed to. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see if, I'm sure the rebels, they might not know that you can, time up and knock them over.
Right, maybe not at this point.
Not at this point. So I'm really curious to see how they start to battle these for the first time. In the trailer we see them just kind of like running straight towards it. So that's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. So next up we have some new troopers. We have the dust-colored shore troopers, which we don't actually have any pictures of. Mm-hmm. But this trooper here, the Death Trooper, has a very sleek, shiny onyx-colored look to them.
Like a brand new car.
Yeah, and so what's in a name? We know stormtroopers. They derive from the specialist forces in the German army in World War One. And when you think of a storm, you think of a strong force, and when you think of an army, you also think of a strong force. So stormtrooper kind of makes sense for them, even though they don't actually hit anything. But we also have sand troopers that we've seen, snow troopers. But what about, why are they called death troopers?
Maybe they'll actually kill someone.
Maybe.
Woo! They'll hit something. Boom, boom.
Maybe. I personally think they're probably like the assassin unit.
Yeah, and we know that they are kind of run by director Orson Krennic. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see how he kind of uses these to his advantage. But we'll talk more about him later.
Yeah. Now, this is an intriguing image of a stormtrooper, or a death trooper holding a stormtrooper.
Yeah, it's a little toy soldier that he has, and apparently this will play some significance in the film, although we're not really sure what significance. It's just kind of funny right now.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he's the guy on Instagram who brings his favorite toy everywhere, that gnome or whatever, and he props it up to take pictures with the Eiffel Tower.
The tundra where he is now.
The current tundra, and he's had it his whole life. It's a thing.
It's just a lot of fun. His friend looks at him like he's an idiot in the background.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, moving on to our lead character. We have Jyn Erso, yes. So she's known for being a loose cannon, mm-hmm. And obviously a rebel, as we learned from the trailer. She's been on her own since she was 15, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting because that means she doesn't really have much of a relationship with her father, who we also know is a huge part of this film.
So yeah, we're not really sure if what we do know about him is that he basically has a lot of information as far as, how the universe works and how to build the Death Star. So we know that he's wanted by both sides, the Empire and the Rebels. He's
kind of like an Oppenheimer kind of character. My guess is that he doesn't want to build a Death Star, but the Empire needs him because he is the key to making the Death Star fully operational.
Make him sound so evil. I really like to speculate, but one speculation that I have is just that, perhaps if he doesn't want to build it, and maybe if he was taken away from Jin when she was 15, as opposed to, just kind of like, being a deadbeat.
Maybe like Ezra Bridger from Rebels.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe, like his parents were taken away from him. Her father was taken away from her. We don't know anything about her mother. But, perhaps she gets in touch with him, and maybe he kind of builds that massive hole in the Death Star that makes it so easily destructible on purpose in order to help the rebels. But again, that's massive speculation.
Maybe it's a father-daughter project that they work on.
Yeah, like every father and daughter really nice. Just like to, build holes in vessels and blow them up. That's what my dad did.
Yeah.
That's just basic bonding. Then we have the character that I personally am extremely excited for, director Orson Krennic.
Played by Ben Mendelsohn, who is very versatile, he can play evil very well.
Yes. I've seen some of his previous work, and he's very promising, and I'm just very excited to see the way that he fulfills this character. Mm-hmm. I'm curious about the character himself, just because he's described as, from what I've gathered, kind of like a neutral evil character in the Empire. And the Empire is kind of formidable because of its order and because of the way that they carry things out, but the rebels are able to kind of, manipulate that and use it against them. So to see someone who's completely in it for themselves and is kind of trying to like climb the social ladder in the Empire, I'm curious to see how he does that.
He's a character who's willing to go through any means to do that. He's willing to backstab and undermine others to get where he wants. And one thing that's interesting is that it's from what the article by Entertainment Weekly's Anthony Bresnikan said, is he... Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That he doesn't like Vader?
Right, yeah, Vader.
Okay.
We might actually see him try to get rid of Vader.
And he might get choked out for it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. That'd be fun.
All right. Moving on. So we have Captain Cassian Andor. We don't really know too much about him. We know that he's kind of this, weary, experienced soldier.
Yeah, quiet.
Yeah, he's quiet. He's seen a lot of things. He doesn't care to talk about them. He just wants to keep carrying on with the mission and keep going forward. That's pretty much, majority of what we know. We don't know too much about his past as far as what he's seen. But basically a lot of people are kind of shipping him with Jin at this point already, and their relationship could be completely platonic. In the image that we have of them, the closest thing that I see towards a relationship is their hands like hovering kind of like near each other. So, if you're in kindergarten, that counts as dating, but...
Yeah, they might not have gone to school, so they don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know that they're dating. But, yeah, like, they could be in a relationship, they could totally not be, but, I think one thing that I gathered from this is that everyone in the crew kind of has something to that leads them to want to fight for the rebels. So I'm curious to see what he's seen and what his past is. Mm-hmm. All right, so moving on to our, Dakota's very excited for these characters.
Yeah, I love these characters. Baze and Chirrut, or Chirrut, we don't know how to pronounce his name. Yeah. But Donnie Yen's character, I'm calling him Chirrut Imwe. He's a blind martial artist figure who we assumed would be Force sensitive, because in the trailer or the teaser we saw, he is seen, knocking guys out with his walking stick. But apparently he's not necessarily a Force sensitive character, which is super interesting. Even though he's a very spiritual man, he believes in the Force. In the picture we see here, he's looking up to the sky, and he's just glowing in the Force. Little does he know, it's just the local sun. But his friend behind him, Baze Malbus,
just kind of looking at him like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, he's not a Force believer. He believes it's all hokey religions and nonsense.
Mumbo jumbo.
Mm-hmm, mumbo jumbo.
But, so one interesting thing about Chirrut is the weapon that he's carrying. Mm-hmm. It kind of looks like it could either be a blaster or kind of like what Chewie has, like a bowcaster of sorts, but that still kind of beckons the question, like, what is a blind man doing with any shooter type of weapon? The article, or kind of like asks the question, maybe because he believes in the Force so much and he's such a spiritual man, maybe the Force is working with him in order to shoot his weapon. And when I read that in my head, I just kind of, pictured Han Solo in The Force Awakens going, like, that's not how the Force works. Like, that could, I'm not anyone, I can't really say if that's going to happen or if it's not, but I'd be really surprised if it did, because, if you're not Force sensitive, the Force doesn't just, like, here you go, like, you can shoot anyone you want. Mm. I picture him as more of, like, a daredevil type of character, not with necessarily, like, heightened senses, but using his past combat experience in order to predict where, his enemies might be in order to, have accurate aim. Anyway, so on to Baze.
He's supposed to be the bodyguard of Chirrut.
Yeah.
In a way. So, something about that.
Yeah, so Baze Balbus, he's just, one thing that I've learned about him from the article is just that he's extremely loyal, and even though he doesn't share his friend's faith, will pretty much do anything to protect him. And again, like, if you, look at at his weapons, it is pretty interesting. He has kind of like a Boba Fett-esque jetpack thing going on.
Maybe he's Mandalorian.
He kind of looks like he could be Mandalorian.
He just doesn't have that
not the stereotype, but he kind of looks the part, and then he has that, that's kind of reminiscent of Boba Fett. So I don't really know where that's going, but again, I'm Captain Speculation, so that could go anywhere. But next, he's kind of the skeptic to his friend, but he'll protect him no matter what.
Yeah, and next we have Forrest Whitaker's character, who was confirmed to be Saw Gerrera, which
very exciting.
Yeah, if you don't know, Saw Gerrera is a character from the Clone Wars season 5, and this is the first time a animated character has made it into a live action production, which is really cool. I'm really happy that the Lucasfilm Story Group decided that instead of creating an all new character for this film, which they did for most of the characters, they've chosen to pull a character out of the canon that they already had and reuse him and add more to his story, which I think is pretty cool, and it'll be fun to go back to Star Wars Clone Wars and see where this character came from.
Yeah, and I think this too, kind of beckons the question, will we ever see a live action Star Wars show?
I would love that. I think
we all would.
Yeah, everyone would. And Disney knows that everyone would. It would boost ratings on any channel, no matter what, just because it's Star Wars. People want to see more Star Wars. I think if they were going to go that route, they would choose Netflix, because they already have that relationship with Netflix with their Daredevil and Jessica Jones and the Defenders, and so I would like to see it. And we know that Lucas has in the past worked on trying to make a live action TV show called Star Wars Underworld, but that never happened. Disney owns all those scripts, upwards of 50 to 100 of them, so I'm sure they've looked through them and they may mine some of that information.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So next we see some beautiful images of the stormtroopers in the water. So this is the first tropical planet that we're seeing in the galaxy. And to see the contrast of, the stormtroopers in this beautiful setting, it is really beautiful to see. It's
a kind of really the juxtaposition of evil on beauty is kind of cool.
Yeah, and the article did mention that will be symbolic in the film. I'm not really sure, how. We'll definitely see how that plays out, and I think it's going to be a really great thing. So another awesome character that I think we're really looking forward to seeing is K2SO.
He's going to be a completely motion capture character played by Alan Tudyk, who you may remember as
Wash
from Firefly.
Yes, so I think this is going to go over really well. He's apparently got, some very dry humor. He's a very blunt character. He's not a protocol droid like C-3PO, so he doesn't really know that he's being funny, and he doesn't have, his polite manner.
Right.
But he's apparently just going to say things that he doesn't realize are funny, but makes everyone else laugh.
And he's a character who wants redemption for whatever reason, kind of like Jin.
Which that line actually, that was a quote in the article saying that both, K2SO and Jin Urso want redemption. And I'm not really sure what they want redemption from, what Jin has done in her past and what this character has done in his past, but that also kind of leads to, the idea that all of the members in the crew have something that is drawing them to the rebellion and something that they need to redeem themselves from or need to fight for. So I'm curious to see what this is, especially for this very interesting and mysterious little droid that we have here.
But the big news for Star Wars Rogue One is the confirmation that Darth Vader is going to be a big part of the film. We mentioned that earlier with director Orson Krennic, but I found it an interesting thing that they would introduce him in a article instead of a trailer or just as a surprise in the film. But I'm not upset, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I'm not angry. I think we actually would have been upset if he had not been in the film. But yeah, I think, they could have announced it in a little more flashy way.
So, I think that's enough Star Wars for now. How about Star Trek?
Yes.
On my blog, I never expected to use the word Rihanna or talk about her, reference her in any way, shape, or form. But I felt the need to because in the latest Star Trek trailer, Star Trek Beyond, the third and final trailer features her new single, Sledgehammer.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think this song really worked.
Anyway, are you excited for this film?
Yeah, I definitely am excited.
I have mixed feelings.
Yeah, I think it looks really cool. I think I definitely need to freshen up on the last films in order to be prepared for it properly, but the trailer did look really cool to me. But I don't really have anything else to say other than the fact that it looks really cool, and I like the way that the song, worked with it, and it looks awesome. And it's right around the corner.
Right. The big issue within fandom right now is that it doesn't look like a Star Trek film. Sure, it has all the characters and all the ships and the aliens, but that isn't necessarily Star Trek in nature. Because with the TV shows, it was far more mellow, and this looks more like a Fast and Furious film, which the director, Justin Lin, has made several Fast and Furious films in the past. But I'm not super upset. I'm sure I'll enjoy the film for what it is anyway. We know that we'll be getting a new Star Trek TV show on CBS coming soon, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so on to some, really exciting news. Could Fox and Marvel team up? That's the rumors that we're hearing, at least.
Right, well, this comes from Matt Key, who's a producer on Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman podcast. He says he said a few things.
Nothing really substantial, but
yeah, he mentions that Fox may be debating teaming up with Marvel for one of their franchises. We know that Fox owns X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Deadpool. Do you think any of these characters could make it over to the MCU?
Well, I mean, as far as Deadpool goes, Deadpool really doesn't need anyone right now. He was he was a massive hit, so I don't think he really needs anyone. As far as the X-Men series goes, I don't really see how they would be able to work that in at this point, just because they already have a couple of X-Men characters, that have been in Marvel films, and they weren't called mutants, so how are they going to backpedal and fix the mutants in or fit them in?
Yeah, retcon.
Yeah, so I don't really know how they would do that. But, I mean, Fantastic Four literally has nothing to lose. They can really use a helping hand.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, really, they could. So I think that would be the only...
So this won't happen for a few years, if it ever does. But, after Marvel and Sony teamed up...
Yeah, with Spider-Man,
it worked, and I'm sure Fox is thinking about it.
Yeah, I think they've seen the way that that's played out, and they're wanting in on the action. So anyway, speaking of action, let's look at Wonder Woman's snazzy new cloak.
So yeah, her cloak looks very sleek, very ancient looking.
Yeah, I like how the interior is gold, and there's a little hint of gold on the panels on the outside. Yeah, I think it's really beautiful.
It's kind of owl-like. And
Yeah.
we know that she won't be getting a invisible plane in this film. So maybe this has some camouflaging features for her. So
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be very cool.
And speaking of Wonder Woman, big news this week.
Yes.
The Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition has arrived. And you know what? I think it made a mediocre film a borderline very good film.
Yeah, it did. It was amazing, how much more enjoyable it was this time around. I think the biggest issue with the cuts previously was just that they kind of overestimated their audience. They kind of thought that we would just make these leaps on our own, and that just was not
within the first
case.
15-20 minutes of the film, it's a 3-hour film, but within that first 15-20 minutes we realized, okay, this is a much better cut. It seems to flow much better. And we won't get into any spoilers or anything like that, but
yeah, you can definitely see that there are more reasons behind the dispute between
raisins.
I said raisins.
She meant reasons.
They actually have a food war prior to the big fight, and Batman playing some raisins. It was a mess. But a literal mess.
The motives for pretty much everyone in the film make a lot more sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes more sense, and they flesh out one character in particular that I feel like adds a lot to the film, and it just makes it flow a little bit better as well. But no spoilers. If you do, feel like watching 3 more hours of Batman and Superman, you should check that out.
And it's not going to win over any haters, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
So for this week, we have our first book of the week, which is White Sand by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is a novelist, even though this is technically a graphic novel. He wrote this many years ago before he ever got a book published, and he decided never to actually publish White Sand, so he made it into a graphic novel.
Yeah, he is an extremely prolific and talented writer, and I'm really looking forward to really reading this and seeing the world fleshed out a little more.
Right.
Or the Cosmere fleshed out a little more, not the world.
And the Cosmere is his universe that he's created with many of his different series that interlock in some ways. I know you really like the Mistborn books. I really like the Stormlight Archive, and we're looking forward to seeing how this world enters into his Cosmere and plan. Yeah,
I'm personally, working my way around the Cosmere and reading all the books, and it's really fun, really enjoyable, and
I'm excited
talent for this. Yes, he is very talented.
Well, this wraps up our first episode of the Geek Week News Update. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much. As this is our first episode, we'd appreciate, any tips or comments that you guys may have for us.
Please follow, please subscribe. And we hope you enjoy this episode, and stay tuned for next week.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.